GingerGM.
Yes, we're going to have a free lesson, and I'm just going to show you first of all what happened in the game Ali Razor versus Magnus Carlsen, and we're going to make sure that we never make the same mistake that Ali Razor made. Now, I think there are some circumstances with this this game, and it was he was very short a time. He was feeling the pressure greatly, and that pressure got to him. It's a mistake that he wouldn't normally play, but he still did make the mistake. And the idea with this lesson is that at the end of the lesson, you will have learned enough to you're never going to make the mistake that one of the strongest players in the world, one of the most up-and-coming players, Ali Razor, made in this game. So I think that's pretty cool, right? You're going to learn how to avoid that. So let's have a look what happened. Well, Ali Razor had the white pieces, and this should of course be a draw because there's so little material on the board. There's only 2 pawns each, so all that one side, the drawing side, needs to do is try to eliminate the opponent's remaining pawns, and it will be a draw. And when you've only got 2 pawns left in the same area of the board, it's very likely it's going to be a draw because there's sacrifices to get rid of the last pawn. There's loads of little things that can happen to get rid of that last pawn. So I'm just going to show you what happened. Now, who's better in this position and why? Well, black is better because black's king, first of all, is in a much more aggressive place, attacking the pawn. It can sometimes step in. And also, if you compare the mobility of the pieces, well, the bishop has very bad mobility because it's defending both of these pawns, so it can't really move. And the knight has a lot of mobility. It can go wherever it wants to go, right? It can jump around the board. It can do many things. And another thing to bear in mind is that when pawns are all on the same area of the board, as they are in this game, all the pawns are on the king side, so they're all in one even quarter of the board, aren't they? The knight is much better than the bishop in those circumstances. So why is the knight better than the bishop? The knight's better than the bishop because the knight is a short range piece. It can't move, for example. You can't move your knight over there quickly, can you? It takes a couple of moves. You have to go boom, boom, boom. It's a short range piece. It works very well in hand-to-hand combat, if you think about it. And the bishop is a long range piece, so the bishop works very well when there's pawns on both sides of the board. So it's these little things you've got to bear in mind. But the way this game went, let's just see. It now first of all went with Magnus Carlsen trying to improve his knight. So he moved his knight around. Here it goes. He's trying to find a better square for his knight, and the only way he could work out to win this was to take this pawn with his knight, and there's nothing white can do to stop this. So this is what Magnus Carlsen did. He eventually took that pawn with his knight, and now the first decision you've got to make is do you exchange that knight off or not? And this is why king and pawn endings are so important, because often if you get to an ending, and an ending is a neglected part of the game. It's in Russia, the old Soviet school of chess where they became so strong, they learnt the endings before the openings, and they've been, really over the decades, the Russians have been the best endgame players around because that's what they learned first of all. I remember playing in many world and European junior championships around the world. I represented England, and I remember often I would play a Russian player, someone from that area of the world. I might get quite a good opening. I would suddenly get into an ending. I might even be slightly better or equal, and then they would just know exactly what to do, and they'd either, if they're trying to find the draw, they'd always get the draw, or I'd get ground down and lose, because the endings are so important. And in this position, you've got to decide if you can force the exchange of pieces and you're sure it's a draw, then you should play it. You should definitely play it. And this is what we have in a proper game, and I'm trying to improve your proper game here, not your rapid or blitz play, because really rapid and blitz is great and it's great fun, but I'm talking about if you want to really improve as a chess player and you know, getting competitions, then you're going to have time to think. And this is what I'd say is a critical moment. And as Martin Merry in the chat has pointed out, in this position, it's a critical moment. So if you're in a tournament, you'd spend a lot of time working out if you can take the knight. If you can take the knight, you should take the knight, because it forces more simplifications. And the problem is, if you don't take the knight, let's say you move your king, you're going to have to suffer here, because at some point black can move his knight around, he can move his king around. There's nothing white can do. The bishop can never attack these pawns, and I wouldn't be surprised if black's winning by eventually getting his king in and then get his knight attacking that pawn. If black wins another pawn, he's winning. So Ali Reza played the correct decision by taking here. Now, this is a very important and quite basic king and pawn ending. And the first thing to bear in mind, and this goes back to one of the most basic things you should learn when you're playing chess straight away, and I'm going to jump to that position now, is a position such as this. How do you win this position? How do you win this position? This is something every chess player should know, and everyone really watching this should have an idea about. And the way you'd win this position is by getting the opposition. So what I mean by that, in a king and pawn ending, if you get into a position where you're opposite your opponent's king, this is called the opposition. The kings are now opposite. They can't get any closer. And generally in a king and pawn ending, you will find out that whoever it is to move in this position has the disadvantage. And this is called the opposition. So you want generally the opposition with your opponent to move. It's a bit like American football. In England, we had a game called Bulldog in the playgrounds. And the way Bulldog worked was you had to run past, you had to get away past your opposing people. So you'd have half of you on one side of the playground, half on the other, or maybe even one person on one side, and you have to try to run past the other people like in American football. And this is the situation here. Black now has to move the king because white is said to have the opposition. And when the king moves apart, we can do Bulldog and we can run in here. And now we've made progress. And the reason this is good, we can now chaperone our pawn through. So after something like king here, the pawn comes, and it will come slowly up the board like this. And there's nothing black can do. So this is the opposition. This is a very basic example of it. If we now go back to this position, white does the right thing. Obviously white's trying to draw, because black is a pawn up, and white goes king h3, and Ali Reza is getting the opposition. Getting the opposition, because now the kings are opposite, and it is Magnus to move. He can't really do anything with his pawns, because when he, if he moves this pawn, white will simply capture that pawn. So this should be a draw, as long as white keeps the opposition. So let's now see how the game developed. So Magnus went king h6. Where should you move your king? I'm looking in the chat as well, so do get involved in the chat. I'm going to ask you some questions later on. I want to see you getting involved as we progress. What should you do here? King h4. Of course, we should go king h4. We're keeping the opposition and we're getting as near as possible. Now king h2 might be okay because you've got what we call the distance opposition, but this is certainly not the most accurate way of playing. And what I mean by distance opposition is if black now tries to come forwards, we can meet whichever square he comes into by, again, gaining the opposition. So let's say he goes king g5. The only way we can draw now is going opposite, getting the opposition with black to move. But king h4 is much more accurate, because why let the black king get any nearer into our position? And now, hello Yobius. Is that Yobius? Yes. No, you haven't missed much, don't worry. And now black played king g7. We'd like to go king g5, but we can't. So where should you move your king now? Where should you move your king now? Where should the king go now? Chess Melissa, you had the right idea. Well done. And it's quite important. Yobius, well done. Perky, Hobbs, you're actually wrong. Now this is, again, one of those positions where it's quite easy to make a mistake. And this lesson is really one of the most basic king and pawn ending things you've got to learn. It might look logical to keep the king as far forward as possible. and maybe go like king g4. But you're now missing the basic point of the lesson, and that is that black now goes king g6. And who's got the opposition here? Who's got the opposition? Well, it's black who has the opposition, because the kings are opposite, but whose move is it? It's white to move, so white has to step away, and black is probably now winning. So for example, if I go king h4, then I think f5 is going to be winning. Let's have a look. Pawn takes here, king takes here, king's got to try to come back. I go king here, you go king here, I go here, you go here, and now I get the opposition. Black is winning. Black has the opposition, as we saw earlier. So king g4, king g6 is losing for white. So if we go back to this position, playing this logical move, you lose. The same, I believe, might happen with king to h5 here. This looks very active because you're coming forwards, but what can black now play to get a winning position? What is black's winning move here? Try to get involved with this show. So do try to leave your comments in the chat. To try to think along. I'd want to make it as interactive as possible. The best way to learn is by putting yourself in the place of the players and to answer the questions. So you've got to try to get the right move. If you get the wrong move, don't worry. It doesn't matter if you get this wrong. It doesn't matter at all. The way to learn is by getting things wrong. Well, now king h7 is winning for black because black gets the opposition. Again, the kings are opposite. It's white to move. White loses the opposition. If you played f5 now, this would be a very big mistake. White's very easily drawing. White can just take the pawn. If you try e4, my king will come back and take that one. If you go king f6, I go king g4. The black king is not active enough. And in this position, it's now black who has to defend a little bit. So you have to play king h7, and now it's white's move. It's very important in endings, especially king and pawn endings, to think of your opponent's move. And now the king can either go to these two squares. So what do you do if the white king goes to h4? What should black now play? Let's see if you're getting the hang of this. What should black now play? I'll just make sure a lot of you are typing the right answer, so do get involved. I'm looking in the chat. Well done, Prakesh. Well done, Gludosh. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong. Yes, well done. You're getting the hang of it. You go king h6. You get the opposition. If the king goes to g4, we go here. We've seen this before. Now, what if the king goes to f3? Where do you move your king to now? What should black play in this position? And this is certainly a little bit new. What should you play here? What should you play if king f3? What's the winning move for black here? So we got f5, we got king h5. The winning move is king h5. If you play f5 here, the problem with this, and you are thinking along the right idea, but in this position you have gained the opposition. But the problem here is that your pawn is too far advanced. In actual fact, sometimes having your pawn too far advanced is a problem. And the reason for that is that after king e3, you really want to play king e5 here to gain the opposition, but you can't do that because you've got a pawn in the way. So you're actually losing the opposition, and this is actually a basic draw now. So what you need to do, and now we're looking at a different kind of opposition, is after king f3, you go king h5, and this is still the opposition, but this is diagonal opposition. So before we had opposite opposition. Does that make sense? I hope so. And now we have diagonal opposition. And the whole point you're trying to do is at some point you need to just keep stepping into your opponent's position when their king moves away, and you're going to force their king to move away. So for example, the king goes to g3, we go g5, and we get the opposite opposition. If the king now goes to f3, we can now step to h4. Okay, this doesn't get the opposition, but we are now going to force our way to f4, and this is going to force the win of another pawn. Let's have a look at that. King g3, sideways opposition. King g4 was also winning. And now when the king moves away, we go king f4. And after king d3, the only way to defend that pawn, king f3. It's white's move now. And white has to lose this pawn, and it's very important in these king and pawn innings to be aware not of your own moves, also your own moves, but your opponent's moves. And here white has to move his king away. We're going to be 2 pawns up, easily winning. So let's go back to the game. Now I'm hoping you're getting the hang of this, and again, when you get used to these positions, it becomes very easy as you get better. You should know these positions, so when you go into the ending you can play it very quickly. You know how to draw. And in this position, now Ali Reza played king g3, and this, as mentioned by Melissa, I think, is a very good move. This is the only way to draw, because we're keeping what we call distant opposition. That's just a fancy word to say you're keeping the opposition, but at more of a distance. And the reason for this is, again, if the king comes in, you're going to shadow it to wherever it comes, and we're getting the opposition. So now Magnus Carlsen tried to confuse Ali Reza. He went king to f8, and now king to f2. You're even keeping the opposition here. What Ali Reza, he's doing it very well. He's waiting to see where Magnus goes, and he's going to follow him. Wherever Magnus's king goes, he follows. So the king goes towards the queen side, so he follows. The king goes back, he just waits. Magnus goes towards the king here, king d3, and now king d6. And in this position, Ali Reza played a shocking blunder, and it's quite amazing to see a blunder from such a strong player. Now, have a good think about this position. You may have seen it before. This is quite a tough question. There's only one move. I actually even got this wrong. I actually thought there was 2 moves, but there's only one way that white can draw this position. And I'm going to give you a minute or two just to think about this. And some of you might know this straight away, not a problem whatsoever. But how do you keep the opposition here? You keep the opposition with your ex-wife. Wise, I guess. I think we've all had that. And yeah, I mean, some of you might, obviously, hopefully you get the position quickly, but it has quite a lot of different points to it. It has quite a lot of different points to it, this position. And you've got to now think, where do you put your king, right? Where do you put this king? Because there's a lot of ways you can go wrong here. Now, Chess Melissa, I actually had the same thinking as you. I thought there was no difference between going to one of these 2 squares. I thought that these 2 squares were the draw. First of all, let's see what Ali Reza played. Ali Reza played the incomprehensible, well, it was comprehensible. He was short of time, nervous, king c3 move. And this was a losing blunder. Why was this a losing blunder? So let's have a look at the bad moves first. What did Magnus play next? And actually, Ali Reza just resigned. And you've got to work out why this is the losing blunder, and hopefully we built up to that position already. What should black now play? And why? Why? Okay, yes, Charisma Save has explained it in words which I like. King c5, black gets the opposition. If it was black to move here, white's drawing. But if it's white to move, it's like zugzwang, this thing. Whoever moves first, it loses something. And unfortunately, it's white to move. So whatever white does, the black king is going to come into the position. And eventually, the black king is going to get to d4, win this pawn. So Ali Reza just resigned. For example, if he goes here, very simply, we take that one. If he goes king d3, the way we're going to win this, we're going to push the white king away and take this pawn. So we go king b4. Not the opposition, but we've gained enough. You've got to also think, calculate mini calculations, and the way we're trying to do this is just win this pawn. It doesn't matter what white plays now. Let's say here we can get the sideways opposition, and we do the same thing we did the other way. We get to this position here. It's white to move. White can't hold on to the pawn anymore. So I can understand why he made this mistake, because he was very tired and he only had 5 seconds on the clock, but I still find this mistake quite shocking. Now, why is king c4 also losing? This move is also losing. Why? Why is this move also losing? And we're going to have a look at the correct move soon. But first of all, this move might look right, yeah, because you're going forwards. And it's very simple here, because black now goes king c6. What does black have? Yes, thank you, Yasser, for president. He has the opposition here. And now, wherever white goes, if he goes to d3, what do you play here? Let's see if you're getting the idea of this. What do you play here if king d3? Where do you move the black king now to win this one? Where does the black king go? B castle. Well done, well done, well done, well done. I think most of you got this right. Yes, thank you for saying the right terminology, Chess Melissa. I like it when people are picking up on the terms, because when you're playing chess, if you can remember the terms, it's good as well. And by going to b5, you keep the diagonal opposition. And now king c3, king c5, forwards opposition, the winning way to go. Now, if we go back, let's have a look. And let's have a look. I now thought that both of these two moves draw. Now, and the point that these two moves are the right way to go is because when black tries king c5, this looks like the only way black can try to win. We've got to be able to play king c3 because we want to gain the opposition, right? So I thought king c2 is drawing. And the point of this is, after king c5, well, I've told you the answer, but let's just make sure. What do you play now? What do you play now? I'll put this up on YouTube afterwards as well. Yeah, now we play king c3 and we got the opposition. And we're basically saying that famous thing, that Gandalf saying, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, and now I forgot the exact terminology, you will not pass. You will not pass. Because now the black king cannot get into the position. And after king here, we just keep the opposition and we're stopping the black king getting to any of these squares. He can't do anything. He can't get in. Easy draw. But king c2, I was very shocked to find this, is actually losing. So why is king c2 losing? Why is this move losing? This is quite strange. I thought it was a draw. Then I suddenly realized you have to, I suddenly realized it's actually losing. So why is this losing? Can anyone tell me why this is losing for white? Why is this losing for white? Why is this losing? It's not because of king c6, because if you go king c6, I will now draw by playing king b2. And why have this is maybe the only way to draw. Why is that a draw? Because if I go king b3, you go king b5, black is winning, black has the opposition. If you go king c3, king c5, black is winning. If I go king b2 though, I think it's a draw, because as soon as your king comes forwards, I'm going to get the opposition. When I say me, I'm talking about white. There's no way black can win. You go here, I go here. It's a draw. You go here, I go here. Draw. And the reason this works well is because my pawn stops the king coming this way. So this is a draw. So this is not the answer. So after king c2, what is the way that it can be won? Is this really live? No, it's not live. It's just in your imagination. Wah, 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 wah. It's in your imagination, chess. Either that. It's either live or I'm psychic. Maybe. So how does black win here? Black's actually winning here. So can anyone find a winning idea? What is the winning idea here? Well done, Chess Melissa. You're doing very well. This is where you have to calculate. In this position, king and pawn endings actually require a lot of calculation, which is quite strange because only king's on the board. I found when I was getting better at chess, one of the ways you have to get good at calculation. One of the ways I got good at calculation was analysing just king and pawn endings to start with. Because there's only kings on the board. You might think, there's only kings on the board. Easy, easy. But then you start calculating and you can do so many things just with these plodders. I call them plodders because they just plod around. They don't go very far. They're like, one moves. But there's so much. Yeah. So, how do you win? Well, the way now black wins is by not trying to get in on the queen side because white's covering that. But now that the white king has drifted too far away, the black king can now swap its idea and the black king can come around to f4. And of course, black's idea is to win the pawn on e4, win the game. So what he does is play, let's say, both of these moves win, king e6. And let's say that white now tries to come this way to stop him with king d3. Well, this keeps the option of going this way. Now king f7. And this is now winning for black. If your king tries to come here, I will come this way and take the pawn. Let's have a look at that quickly. This is very easily winning for black. The problem that white has in this position is that the king is totally in the wrong place. If the king was on e2, it would be a draw, but now black just goes here and he chaperones the pawn to get a queen. So you can't come forwards with the king. So if you can't come forwards with the king, you've got to try to come this way, and let's just have a look at what happens. King e3, and now king here, king f3, and what is the winning move for black now? Let's see if you've got the point of the lesson. What is the winning move for black? Endgame queen. Yes, you can call yourself the endgame queen, Chess Melissa, especially if you can do the next couple of examples. So a lot of you have got the right move. A lot of you have got the right move, but why is it the right move? Why is it the right move? Remember the terminology that we spoke about earlier? You've got the right move. What was the terminology? Can you remember what I called it? Diagonal opposition. That's right. So the important thing to remember here, you've got two choices. Which square do you go? One is a draw, one is a win. It's amazing. And this is why chess is so beautiful. Even the most simplest of things have great depth to it, and they require, you know, there's a great deal of beauty in simple looking positions. And here, if you go king g5, you've made a really bad mistake, because now white goes here, and the whole point of this lesson is the opposition. White has the opposition, and this is what we call mutual zugzwang, which is just a long word for whoever it is to move is going to lose, basically. Well, obviously black can't lose this position, but if it's black to move, white has a draw. If it's white to move, white, and it's like this game, like American football, when you're trying to run past the defender, whatever happens, the black king is going to move into the position, as we've discussed. So let's go back. Now, what is the only way to draw this one? What is the only way to draw? We're going to have a look at more examples of this afterwards, but this is your first test. Can you improve on Ali Razor? Thank you for the subscription, not Fisher. And the only way to draw then, and this is crazy, is by going king to d2. The only drawing move. And I know some of this might be confusing to you guys. So this is, you know, Ali Razor got this wrong, and he's one of the strongest players in the world. So if you can even get a couple of the ideas right, you're doing better than him. And you can tell all your friends that when Ali Razor becomes world champion, you can be like, ah, he's nobody. He's nobody. I'm better at endings than Ali Razor. And the reason this is a draw, well, black has two ways to win. Black can either try to come this way to get to d4. Remember, black's trying to get to this square or to this square. If black gets to one of these two squares, black is winning because he's going to win the pawn. So black can either try going this way, or as we saw before, going this way. So if he goes king c5, what is the drawing move? Easy. We all know it now, especially if you've been here for the whole lesson. What is the drawing move? Come on. Boom. Boom. Drawing move. Yes, king c3. Why is this a draw? Because you have the opposition. Black can't get through. He needs to get into these squares, but he can't. If it's white to move here, mutual zugzwang, meaning it's a mutual standoff. Let's imagine you've got your guns here, and basically whoever draws their gun first gets shot. That's the rule here. So whoever moves first gets shot. And the problem is, if the king now, well, there's no way. If you go here, I just shadow. I'll get the opposition. And let's have a look at the other way you can play. After king d2, this is a draw. What about now black tries to go this way? Well, let's have a look. King e6. Now we're a bit quicker. King e3. King now comes to f7. King f3. King g6. And what is the drawing move here? Quite easy. White to play and draw. What is the drawing move here? And why king g4 is the draw? Because we have the opposition. Right. Now I think you have a little introduction to this lesson so far. So now I'm going to test what you've learnt. And the next position is a puzzle position. And it was a puzzle position composed by Jan Tinman, who is one of the greatest ever chess players. Well, I was going to say from the world, which I think is fair, but certainly from Holland and Europe. And this now leads you to this position, and it's white to play and draw. Have a think about this. It's the same theme that we've been looking at. You solved the first one, white to play and draw. And you've got to have a good think about this position. Don't rush. I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Nigel Short is certainly not my favourite Grandmaster of Europe, just to clarify that point. White to play and draw. And what move is a draw and why? Try to give me a verbal explanation. One thing that will make you better at chess straight away, which computers can't do, this is why training with computers is not always good, is to explain why you're playing that move as if you're talking to another human. Like you're a teacher. If you put yourself in a teaching role, that you play a move and you're able to explain, even if there's no one there, so basically I'm telling you to talk to yourself, if you can explain why, then that means you've got to grips with the concept and you will always remember it. So try to do that. So we have King G1 or King G2. King G1 or King G2. Which move? So basically what you want to do here, you want to use your king because you can't move anything else. You can't move your rook or your pawns. You can only move your king. So where do you move your king and why? Why? What square do you move your king to and why? 2 squares are losing and 1 square is a draw. Why? Have a think about it. Have a think about it. And if you've watched from the start of the show today, you should know the answer to this and you should be able to guarantee that you get a draw. Well done, Pizza Racer. I like the way you've explained that one. And good. I'm good to see more verbal explanation in the chat here. Merry Hatman, congratulations. And Not Fisher, well done. You've explained it very well. And if I miss your name out, I apologise, but let's get on. Well, okay, the only way you can draw this is by going King G1. Why? Because if you move your king to either of these 2 squares, let's see if I can get a bit of blue. Oh, green. No, green's not working, is it? Blue, we like a bit of blue. If we move to either of these 2 squares, black gets your position. Let's have a look. If you go King G2, black goes King G4. And this is what the whole lesson is really about. Black has the opposition. And the reason why this is bad, it may be not the same reason as before, but let's have a look. Let's say what white wants to do is really try to bring the king over here. So let's say you go King F2. You want to bring your king to where the action is. King F4. Black has the opposition. Remember, the opposition is when the kings are opposite and it's your opponent to move because it gives you that chance to step in. King E2, King E4, King D2, King D4. It's now white to move and white is losing. White is losing. Why is white losing here? What does white play? Black's idea is to bring the king to b3 and just win the rook if you don't do anything. And let's say you go this way with the king. Well, now black just simply comes here and there's nothing white can do to stop you winning the rook. So the only other idea is you come this way, and the only way you can stop the king coming here is c2. But now black can play rook takes c4 and he goes into this ending, and this ending is winning because black has the opposition. This is quite an easy win because also black can take this pawn at some moment. And let's just show the easiest way to win this is to keep the opposition. Let's say you go a4 here, and now here. Where do you move your king here? Well, there's 2 ways to win actually, but what's the best way for black to win in this position? Oh, I'm glad you became NM from some of my videos. Yes, King C3, keeping the opposition, King D1, and now I would go King D3. This is what you want. When you're black in these positions, you want to have the opposition in front of your pawn with your opponent to move. And now let's say King to C1. What is the winning move here? What is the winning move here? King D3 was winning as well. You're right, Mary, because you have the tempo with the pawn. But what is the easiest way? Yes, King E2. And this is what I'm saying about the American football maneuver. Basically, this king is the defender. Your king is the runner with the ball. And as soon as the defender goes the wrong way, you step into the position. And now you can just chaperone the pawn through. So if we go back to the start position, which is here, King to G2 is losing because after, not that move, after King G4, black has the opposition. Now, if you go King H2, well, what does black play to win here? What does black play in? What's black's winning move in this position? To keep the opposition. Of course, king h4, and it's the same thing. If you go king g1, it doesn't matter. In actual fact, it's even better this way for black because the black king gets to this square. So now it should be quite easy to see that the only move you have is king g1. Why do you play king g1? The reason you play this move, well, if black now plays king g4, which looks logical, the black king is trying to come to this square, you can now draw. How do you now draw? What is the drawing move here? And we'll have a look at this. What is the drawing move? White to play and draw. Yes, you're getting the right moves, guys. Well done. King g2, keeping the opposition. And now black can only try to come this way, as we saw before. But the difference is we have the opposition. And the difference is in this position, it's now black to play. And this is now a drawn position. We had this before with white to play. So this is again that mutual Zugzwang. Whoever moves in this position basically loses half a point. Whoever moves loses half a point. Of course, the reason we don't go this way is that now the black king just comes to b3 and you lose your rook. You want to keep the straightforward opposition if you can. Let's say that black now takes this pawn. I can't really see any other moves. And here rook takes c4, we just go rook takes a5. Let's not go into the king and pawn ending. Let's do this one. We couldn't do this before because when black took on c4 it was check. But this, I'm not going to look at too much at rook and pawn endings now, but if you know, we'll have a look at that maybe another time. But if you know this position, it's a very easy draw. The way you should draw this is get your rook somewhere like over there and check from the sides. Just keep your king in front of your opponent's pawn. It's an easy draw. So this is why it's a draw. So let's go back. So after king g1, maybe a more crafty move for black here is king g5. Now what should you play in this position? White to play and draw. What is the drawing move? Let's see if you've got the hang of this now. What is the drawing move here? What is the drawing move in this position? You can't go to e1, I'm afraid, but you're getting the right idea here. Well done. Perky Hobbs, I'm afraid you got the wrong move there, but I thank you for, I don't mind. I'm actually very happy to see the wrong move because it means that there's still some teaching to be done, and hopefully by the end of the lesson you'll all get the right moves. Think for yourself, even if you get it wrong. Think for yourself. The only way to get better at things is by making mistakes, right? You've got to learn from mistakes. And the right move is king f1. Why is this the right square? Because if you go king f2, black gets the opposition. And black is now winning. And we've seen why this is winning. So what you need to do, you need to go king f1. And now let's say king f5. What do you play here? What's the only drawing move now? What's the only way to draw for white here? You can only move your king. What's the only drawing move? Well done, people. Well done. Be Carl so chubby. Is that Chubby Warner? Keeping the opposition. You're making the same mistake, Perky Hobbs. If you go here, king e4, and you've got to ask yourself, the kings are opposite, but who has the opposition here? Basically, whoever it is to move in this position is in trouble. It's mutual Zugzwang as the technical stage. And this move here is a big mistake because black gains the opposition. This is the kind of position where you want it to be your opponent to move. And the reason for that is now we've seen why. If the king goes to f2, remember that American football thing. You're trying to get to the touchdown line. At the moment, the white king is blocking the runner. But as soon as the white king moves away, the black king can come in. So if you go this way, the black king comes here. If you go this way, the black king comes here. And we're going to take that pawn with check. So the only way to draw is by going king e1. And the point of this is, at some point, let's say king e5. What do you play here? What's the only drawing move now? What's the only drawing move now? Only one way to draw. White to play and draw. Don't give away the opposition. Don't give away the opposition. Try to get involved. Not king d2. King d2 is a mistake because black now steps in. Black has the opposition. You've blundered. And again, I expect a lot of you weren't at the start of this lesson. You can look at the start of the lesson on my YouTube channel at another time. This position white is losing, as we've seen, because you have to go here, and now black takes the pawn with check. So the only way to draw here is by going king d1, and now at some point, black has to play king d4, and as soon as the king comes to d4, who gets the opposition? White gets the opposition by going there, and white now has the opposition because it's black to move. Just think logically, whose move is it? It's black to move. And now if black doesn't take this pawn and he moves his king, white can always keep opposite because you're stopping the king coming in. Just stop that king coming in and you draw. Doesn't matter where the king goes, keep the opposition. So the only way, if we go back after king d4, king d2, that black can try to win is by maybe taking here. But now, because it's not check, you take here. This is an easy draw. And if the black rook tries to go over here, trying to come here, what is white's correct move here? White actually gets the advantage after this move. This is the only other way that black can try to win. What move does white now have? Thank you, V. Costa, for subscribing. c5, well done. This is the only way to draw. This is check. In actual fact now, white could be winning in some positions, because if king takes c5, you go here, and all of a sudden black starts crying and asking for his mummy. Okay, let's move on now. So we've got a couple more examples I want to show you, then you're going to have a really good grip, and you're never going to get this wrong, are you? So the next example, we're now going to look at a slightly different topic. We've looked at the opposition, and the thing that you can do now is develop that one concept, which if we go all the way back to this simple position here, this is the most basic example that you'll see in any beginner's book of the opposition. But as you develop and you get stronger, you'll see different elements of this. Now this position here, it's white to play and win. Yes, that's right, Mary. We're now going to have a look at something called, and these are just big words, but you know, these terminologies are maybe important to learn. We're going to look at something called triangulation. Triangulation. A holy triangle. A good triangle. And triangulation is basically the concept in a king and pawn ending, as this is, of losing a move. Why do you want to lose a move, you might be thinking? Well, we've seen that in the last two examples. Sometimes you want to lose a move to gain the opposition. You might be thinking, what on earth is this lad talking about? He's talking gibberish. Now, what I'm talking about is, you want to, well, there's only one move here, king d5, right? Otherwise you lose the pawn. Now, if black plays king d8, this is a big mistake. Why is that a big mistake? Why is that a big mistake? What can white do now? And give me a verbal reason why it's winning. Why is it winning? What move does white now play to win? Easy. What does he play now to win? Yes, very simply, king d6. You have the opposition, mutual zugzwang. Whoever's move it is going to lose half a point. If it's black to move, white wins. If it's white to move, well, it's not actually a draw here, but it would be without these two pawns. The point is, after king c8, you now simply go c7. There's only one move black can play. He's got to allow your king in, that American football runner. And now the king comes in, and white is going to queen next move. So if we go back to the start position, this looks quite simple, right? You go king d5 and you win. But where should black put the king? What is the best square to put the king? What is the best square? Well, after king c4, unfortunately, black just takes the pawn. So you can't allow that. This is the only way to play. What is black's best move? Black's best move is to go king c8, because black is trying to keep the opposition. The reason you don't go king b8 is that white can now get what? What does white play, and what does white get? What's it called? We've looked at this earlier on the lesson. What should white play against this move, and what's the term we used? Diagonal opposition. Well done, Baird Rush. Well done, B. Carl. So, well done, Chubby Warner. We go king d6. We get the diagonal opposition. Now, I might even put this into a DVD, for example, and sell it. But this is the kind of thing I know lots of Grandmasters actually teach their students. Like I say, for crazy amounts of money, £100, $200 an hour even, just to let you know you're getting it all free. And this is the diagonal opposition. The reason this wins is we're threatening to go king here and push the pawn. And after here, we do the same thing. We get the winning position. So, the only drawing try is king c8. And now, if we go king to d... Okay, what's the winning move here? I'm not going to say anything else. What is the winning move? What is the winning move here? What is the only way for white to win? And try to work this out. Try to work this out. What is the only winning move? Try to give me a verbal explanation. Have a think about this. Is there 2 ways to win this, Martin? Maybe, yeah. I'm just thinking if there's 2 winning moves here. Let me just think about this. I need to think about this. So you guys think about the only winning move. There's only 1 winning move here. No, 2. Well, there's the winning idea, should I say. Let me just work this out if there's 2 ways we can win this. Maybe there is 2 ways we can win this. I'm just going to check quickly. I have to think about this myself. I think there is 2 winning moves here. 2 winning moves. Okay. Now the winning move is this quite high level idea of triangulation. And what we're trying to do is triangulate with our king to lose the tempo to gain the opposition. Complicated, but it makes sense. Now, moves that draw immediately, king e6, I go king c7. You have to defend this pawn. So you go king back and I go king c8. We're in the same situation. Draw. If you go king d6, black plays king d8. Black now has the opposition. It's white to move. And if you push the pawn in this time, it's now white to move. This is stalemate. So this is a draw. So often you can come to the right answer by the process of elimination. Now the only ways to win this is by moving your king to one of these 2 squares, because what you're trying to do is triangulate like that, or triangulate like this. Remember, king c5, king c7, black has the opposition, and we get the same position like this. The only way to win here, let's have a look at Martin's king d4. And now, what is going to be played here? So let's have a look. If the king now comes forwards, what does white play? What does white play and why is white winning? What does white play and why is white winning? This is winning for white. It's getting harder, these, I realize that. What does white play? King c5, white gets the opposition. This is very easily winning. The easiest way to win this is actually going to take that pawn. If you get your king to b6, you're winning. For example, let's say king here, king b6. I take this pawn, I'm 2 pawns up. So the only way you could try to draw, if we go back to this move king d4, is by going king d8. Now what is the winning move here? What is the winning move here? What is the winning move here? There's only 1 winning move. It's tough. It's tough. This is getting much tougher. Okay, so king... Oh, maybe there's more than 1 winning move. Here, I go king c8 though, right? If you go king d5, I go king c8. I think it's a draw. Because black's keeping the opposition, right? Well done, Charisma Save. You've got the right answer. GM Arsim, well done. Well done, Mars. Everyone who suggested king c4, you've got the right move. Because if you play king c5, black has the opposition. Draw. If you go king d5, black now has to be careful. Because if he goes here, you're going to get your king to b6. White gets your position. But I think black can draw by moving the king to this square. And the point is, you can either try going this way. If you go here, black now gets the opposition. It's getting tough. If you go here, black now gets the opposition this way. We're going to go over this again a bit later. So the only way you can win after king d4, just going to go back to that point, is now, let's just have a look at this. I'm going to go back to start position because it's getting quite complicated. This is the start position. We're going to triangulate to lose a move to gain the opposition. So we go king d5. The only way black can try to draw is by going king c8. Because now if we come in, he goes d8. And now we're going king d4. The only way black can try to draw in this position is by going king to this square. And now the winning move is king c4. Why is this the winning move? Because we are trying to get the opposition. Black only has 2 sensible squares to go to. Use logic, use the process elimination if you're not sure. If he goes to c7, we go to c5. We've got the opposition because it's black to play. If black goes to c8, what is the winning move here? What is white's winning move in this position? What is white's winning move in this position? White to play and win. The only winning move. Well done for everyone who's got this right. You go king d5 because eventually, now I think it becomes clear black is losing because you're going to get the opposition. If he goes to c7, we go to c5, opposition. If he goes to d8, we go to d6, opposition. If he goes to b8, we go to d6, diagonal opposition. Wherever the black king now goes, white gets the opposition by moving in the right direction. Quite complicated, right? Quite complicated. It's not a piece of cake, but chess is a little bit tricky at times, right? So let's go back. The start position, there's another way we can win. And the other way to win is after king d5, king c8. We just looked at the king going to d4. But in actual fact, king c4 immediately is another way that we're using triangulation. Because triangulation, you're putting your pieces on odds. There's a triangle. If you go to the corners of a triangle, it's 3. It's an odd number. And because it's an odd number, that means you're changing sort of the tempo. You're losing a move. If you keep to an even number with your king, like you go backwards and forwards to the same square, so you're only working on 2 squares, you're not going to lose a move. But by using 3 squares, an odd number, you're losing a move. Maybe I've just made that completely ridiculous now and much harder. But this is now winning because let's have a look. Okay, well, if this one is winning because we get the opposition, very easy. How do we win if the black king now goes to d8? What's the winning move here? Let's make sure you know what to do here. What do you play here? What's the winning move now? What is the winning move now? What is the winning move? And why? You've got to think why. What is the winning move here? Well done, everyone who's got it. It's quite hard. It's quite hard. The winning move is king d4 because we're trying to lose that move by using triangulation like we did before. Now king d5 is not winning. How does this is not making progress? What should black play against this? Let's make sure, I'm just going over some of the things again, make sure as many of you as possible can get the right move. King c8, well done. This is the drawing move. Well done. So I'm going to go back to the starting position again. Starting position, we go king d5. This is the only way to draw. We're now looking at king c4. King c7, easily winning for white. We get the opposition. And if king d8 now, if we go here, king c8 draw. But by going in a triangle, we're now winning. Because if black ever comes to c7, we go to c5. We're winning because we're coming here, taking a pawn. If black goes to c8, what is the winning move now? What is the winning move now? White to play and win. Remember, you're trying to get the opposition. What is the winning move now? Well done. King d5. And it's the same situation. We're trying to get the opposition. The king's been in an opposite situation with your opponent to move, so he has to give way. If he goes to d8, we go to d6. We're winning. If he goes to c7, we go to c5. Opposite, winning. If he goes to b8, we go to d6, diagonal opposition, winning. So in actual fact, this triangulation is another skill set you can use in king and pawn endings. Once you've tried to master the opposition, then you get this triangulation. And by using these three squares, you're losing a move, therefore gaining the opposition. So you go here, whatever happens, if he goes to these squares straight away, I'm just going to go over it one more time. It's an easy win because we gain the opposition. Kings are opposite, and now he has to give way. And this is a forced sequence. We queen our pawn. Very, very easy. So his best defense, and you should always do your best defense, is going here. And now a lot of people without thinking might go forwards here, but this is actually a draw because now black has the opposition. This is a draw. So the only way to win in this position is after king c8 by losing a move, triangulating. So you can go either to one of these two squares. If he ever comes to c7, we go to c5. And if he plays, let's say he goes to king b8, what is the winning move against king b8? We haven't looked at this one yet, the last one. What is the winning move here? What is the winning move here? The A pawns do make a big difference because white's winning plan is to get to b6 and take that pawn. Without the A pawns, it would be a draw. What is the winning move? The winning move is now this triangulation. You've done this. So what you've done, you've basically used four squares, but you've gone 1, 2, 3. These three squares your king's moved on. And by going here, by triangulating on an odd number of squares, now your opponent has basically, he has to give you the opposition. If he ever goes here, we get this winning position because our king comes into this square. Black has to give way. If the king goes to this square, what's the winning move here? One more thing. What is the winning move here? What is the winning move here? Anyone see the winning move? King d5. Well done. Because again, we've seen this position. That is opposite opposition. If he goes here, we step in, opposite opposition. And if he goes here, we go here, diagonal opposition. Okay, I think we're going to do one more. These lessons are quite tough on the brain, but I'm going to do one more and then we're going to end the lesson there. If you missed any of this, I'll put it up on my YouTube channel. You're basically getting a really, I think it's a really good free lesson that most grandmasters would charge a lot of money. And I'm giving you now one more example, and this has the similar idea. Now, rather than jumping in and guessing, it's white to play and win. And do remember, if you can ever force the win in a king and pawn ending, you should do that. You should force the win. Forget about opposition. It's like if you could checkmate your opponent, would you checkmate or would you try to use the opposition? No, you checkmate him, right? So let's have a think about this. It's white to play and win. What is the winning idea? Imagine you're white here. If you can't find the right idea, you are going to, you're basically not going to win the position, are you? Thank you for subscribing. MC Solid. Cheers. What is the winning idea here? Well, I think a lot of people are going for king d4, but I don't think that helps. I don't think that helps. Maybe it does. Let me have a think. I've got to think about these as well. Don't get me wrong. I think you just go king c6. I don't see how that helps. If you go there, I think I'm going to go here, right? You go here, I go back to d7. I don't think king d4 works. We'll have a look at that in a minute. I mean, the first move I'd be thinking of is certainly c6 because it's forcing. Does c6 work? Does c6 work? Oh, king d4. Oh, you're right, Martin. Yeah, sorry, I'm going crazy there. You are right. We'll have a look at that. Maybe you're right. Does c6 work? Let's have a look at the most forcing move first, because you've got to try to get a queen to win. So does c6 work? Yes or no? Yeah, I'm thinking king d8 is probably the right move, Martin, but you've got the right idea. It's me who is wrong there. Basically, what we're trying to get, let's think about what we're trying to get. First of all, if c6 works, you play it because you queen your pawn. If it doesn't work, you've got to think of another strategy. And what are you trying to do in this position? Maybe that. Tell me verbally. Okay, let's have a look at c6 first. Now c6 check doesn't work. If you think it worked, maybe you're making a mistake of not looking at your opponent's best defensive moves. One big mistake in chess is not thinking of your opponent's best defensive moves, assuming they're going to play a bad move. Now the reason that this check here doesn't work is not, well, what is the way that black can draw? What is the way black can draw? Black's only drawing move here is what? What is the only drawing move here? What is the only drawing move? Well done, Richter's neighbor. If you take this pawn, black is losing, because after king c5, white is going to get the opposition. For example, you go king c8, king takes c6, I've got the opposition, the kings are opposite, and it's my opponent to move. That's what you want. And the reason this is winning, as we've seen before, the king will eventually get in, you queen next move. Now let's just have a look at that again. If c6, pawn takes king here, how do you win after king d8? What is white's winning move here? What is white's winning move here? King d6, that's right. Very good. You go king d6 first, you gain the opposition, and after here you get the same thing, you're winning. And if c5, you just go b7, b8. But the way that black can draw after c6, check, is by going king c8. And this is a dead draw, because there's no way you can win. If you play c7, I go here. Let's say I go here, and if I ever try to get the opposition, it's stalemate. If the white king ever comes to these two squares, it's stalemate, draw, stalemate. So actually, after c6 check, we go back to the position, king to c8, it's just a draw, it's a draw. So let's have a think. c6 does not work, so now I'm going to ask you a very important question, and I want you not to tell me individual moves, but I want you to explain with sentences, what is white trying to do in this position? And don't just say queen or pawn, we know that, but imagine what you're trying to achieve in this position. Well, outflank black is probably a right answer, but it's not the answer I'm looking for. Mary Hatman, Yasser for president, well done. You've got exactly the right idea. What you want to, the way you win this, and this is another way that you maybe think of endings which you haven't thought of before. It's one of the best ways to improve at chess. Get into your opponent's mind as well. If it's black to move here, it's easily winning, because you've got the opposition and you're going to win. Wherever black goes, you're winning. If he goes this way, for example, just you have to picture this, then you go c6 and then you'll be winning. If the king goes to c8, you get the diagonal opposition. If he goes to e8, you get the face-to-face opposition. If he goes to d8, you get the face-to-face opposition. So you want this position with black to move. How do you do that? Well, Martin suggested king to c... was it king to c4 you suggested, Martin? Now, that is possible, because now king c6 would be losing for black. And this is just one way you can get what you want. You go king d4, king d7, king d5, and now it's black to move. And what you've done there, you've triangulated, you've used those squares, you've gone boom, 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 and now you've got the position with black to move, and now we'll have a look at this in a second. But let's go back to the original position. After king to c4, black should not go king to c6. Black should play something, I would say, like king d8 here. And the point here is that black is waiting. If you now go back, you get the same position. So I think there's a better way to win this, and the way to win this is by trying to stop your opponent's king going backwards. And a much more active move is king e5. This is the winning idea. And the point of this now is that the black king goes backwards. And this is actually much simpler. You get the opposition against all of this. Let's have a look at those moves. Against king e8, what does white play to win? Let's just make sure you got the hang of this. What does white play to win? What does white play to win? Of course, king e6, opposition. And let's just see why this is winning. King d8. And now we can even... No, we can't play that yet because king c8. But we now play king to d6. And now if the king goes to e8, we simply take the pawn, easy. So the king has to go to c8. What is the winning idea here? What is the winning move here? What's white's winning move here? What is the winning idea? Well, if you play c6, what are you going to do after king to b8? What are you going to do after king to b8? Try to give me more than one move when you're trying to solve this. What are you going to play after king to b8? Looks like it might be a draw. King c6 looks like a draw to me. King d7, pawn takes pawn. I go king d7 and now pawn takes pawn. You have to take this pawn, otherwise I'm coming here. And when you take the pawn, black goes here. Black gets the opposition, black draws. So a lot of you have just thrown away the win. You've thrown away the win there. Let's go back to the original position. The original position was here, king e5, and let's just have a look at what happens when white gets the opposition. We get to this structure here, and now king to c8. What is the way to win this one? c6. What is the way to win? Try to give me a variation that is more than one move deep, because one move means nothing on its own. It's got to be a series of moves. And the good thing about king and pawn endings, as I said before, it's much easier to visualize king and pawn endings because you've only got to think about one piece. Well, maybe the pawns here, but the kings and the pawns. What is the winning line? Let's just see. Well done, Hobo Dog. Well done, Hobo Dog. I think you're the first person to give me what I wanted, the variation that wins. Well done, Hobo Dog. You've given me the whole variation. Well done, GM Arsim. Well done, Merry Hatman as well. The winning idea is not to push this pawn. We've seen that a draw, but we go here. And now we're going to squeeze the black king. The black king has to run away. And now I don't think it matters which square you go to. Let's say here. The black king has to go away. And only now, we don't move our king again because it's stalemate. Whoops. We now play c6. And only now, when we've got our opponent's king in the worst square possible, is this winning. We're going to go here and here if the black king moves. And after pawn takes pawn, what is the winning move? What is the winning move? Hello, Jess Fox. Actually just coming to the end of the lesson. What is white's winning move here? King c6 is a draw, is winning. They're both winning. They're both winning. They're both winning. Yeah, I like this one. This one is my favorite because I'm just going to queen quickly. It's not stalemate because black has this pawn, but in actual fact, king takes c6 is opposite. It's diagonal opposition, isn't it? I forgot about this. I even forget about what I'm teaching. This is diagonal opposition. So after king b8, we go here and our king comes in. So let's go all the way back to the original position. What you're trying to do with king e5, you're trying to triangulate. And we're using a lot of terms which are complicated, but if you were here from the start of the lesson, you should understand them. Okay, how do we win after king c8? Let's have a look at the other moves. What's the winning move here? What is white's winning move, king c8? Let's see if you can guess the right move. Guess the right move. Well done, guys. Well done, Chi. I'm just going to call you Chi. Well done, Mary. Rice Farmer, well done. Well done, well done, well done. Yes, well done, Yasser, for pointing out king e6. And that is diagonal opposition. We've seen what happens if the king goes into the corner. If we go here, we now get opposite opposition. And now when we go here, we squeeze it, and we've seen how this is a win. We win like this by playing c6, and we saw how this is winning. So after king e5, what do you play if the king goes to this square? After king d8, what is the winning move here? Let's just make sure you got it. This should be easy. What is the winning move here? What is the winning move? Yes, the winning move is to get opposite. Because what we're trying to do, we're trying to force that king to give way so our king can get to one of these two squares and be winning. So the only move that black can try after king e5, we've looked at, okay, we've looked at these moves. Okay, what about king e7? What do you play against this one? What is the winning move against king e7? And even in endings, there are tactics. Because this way, black is keeping the opposition, right? This looks sensible. This looks very sensible. But what do you play here? Well, now, of course, you do play c6 because the black king has been drawn too far away. And if the pawn takes pawn, you go here. It can't be stopped. If black suddenly tries to run back, you take here and you queen next move because the black king can't get nearer the pawns. So after king e5, the only other move we've got to look at is king to c6. You don't want to lose your pawn. So you go king to d4. And now black has to come back. And now we go king d5. We have the same position we had at the start, but it is now black to move. It is now black to move. So we know how we're going to win this. Wherever black moves to, we're going to gain the opposition. Okay, let's look at it again very quickly. If he goes king e8, winning move. Everyone should be able to find this quickly now. What's the winning move there? Well, there's actually more than one winning move. But what is the winning move? King e6. Let's keep the opposition. And now we can win by doing this. And here we go here, 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 and now c6. That is the winning move there. So let's just go back and have a look at the other options. Okay, so what about king to d8? The winning move here, very simple. We go, what move? King to d8. What's the winning move? King d6. We keep the opposite, same thing. And the last move, what if he goes king c8? What is the winning move here? What is the winning move here? What is the winning move there? And why? And why is it the winning move? Yes, we go king e6, diagonal opposition, and we've seen how this is a win. So the funny thing is that the start position of this puzzle was here, and it's white to play and win. But what we actually got to, after some moves, we got to this same position, but we've given the move to our opponent to gain the opposition. How have we given our opponent the move? We've done it by very simply triangulating. White's king has used these three squares, which is an odd number, and he uses an odd number to lose a move. So you go king e5, king c6, king d4, and the king has to come back, and now we get the same position by using the triangulation, by using an odd number of squares. But now we've given our opponent the move. And why has this helped us? Because wherever he moves his king to, we're going to gain the opposition. And we've seen that the opposition is winning. It is winning. Okay, well, quite an intense lesson. I'm not going to go on any more there. I think that's probably enough. And like I say, that is a lesson I know a lot of Grandmasters have given before, and they've charged a lot of money for, £100, £200. So you got it for free. Obviously, it's not always the most entertaining when you get any lesson. You know, you go to school and you sit there and you're like, oh God, why? I don't like this. But obviously, if you want to get good at something, then you've got to learn. You've got to do a bit of the hard work. And if you don't want to do the hard work, and if you're just hearing like, oh, what's going on? Well, you're never going to get better at chess, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But surely one of the things we should all strive to do is to get better at chess. Surely that's an important thing. Because you'll have more enjoyment. The better you get, it's more fun beating people than losing to people. I know that for a fact. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learnt a little bit about some things. I'm now just we're gonna go and do a bit of raiding like the old Vikings. Who are we gonna raid? I like raiding the smaller streamers who don't have as many people. So stay with me for a little bit. Should we give someone random a raid? I don't know many of the people. So anyone, who are we gonna raid? Let me just refresh. Let's go for a raid of, I don't know. I'm trying to pick someone. Let's give this chap a raid. Oh no, who should we give a raid to? Who are we going to raid, people? I don't know any of these people. I'm rooting for the underdogs, but we want to raid one of the underdogs. So go and say hello to the underdog. Obviously, if you're serious about getting better at well, go and check out my website. Who are we going to raid? Oh, he's got cool hair. I like his hair. Okay, random raid. Go and say hello. See you all later. Have a good day. I'll be back again tomorrow for another. I'm going to be playing some more Crazy Blitz tomorrow. I might even take you guys on tomorrow. So do stay tuned for that. I'll see you all later. We're raiding this guy because he's got a cool looking beard, and I appreciate a good bit of beardage. See you all later. Have a good day. Bye for now.